You know, something we've been following the last 2 years. This is breaking news here. This is an exclusive and a very sad exclusive. I have been seeing the reports and reading in the different journals, mainline fraud journals that report on fraud, with mortgage companies coming in when houses are paid in full. Generally, they target lower middle class or blue-collar people or elderly, and they take their land. In fact, we found out about a city scam, just giving you some background, so this is in context. When I first got on the air in 1995, this is the type of issues I did video reports on, and a lot of those are online now today, have been recently re-uploaded to the web, to the different video channels. And at first we were wondering, why is it always an old man or woman, after they have surgery in the hospital, suddenly they have their house taken? And it was Roland Ellingston and all these other old people. Then it happened to my grandparents. My grandfather had had a heart attack, and suddenly they were saying there was a creek behind their house that wasn't even their property, but that they had to clean out the fallen limbs that had come down the creek that weren't theirs, or it was $2,000 a day fines. And in just a week or two, it was over $14,000. And I then discovered a pattern that all these people have been in a city hospital, and that they have health department computers by law that they were putting their data into, and the nurses didn't know. That was then being shared out to a corrupt unit within the police force that is willing to go up and arrest old people off their front porches. Now, Roland Ellingston, veteran, retired arborist, he lived on West 37th Street, where those little 3-bedroom houses were going for $500,000 if they were broken down, $1 million if they were nice. He owned 2 houses side by side on 37th Street. He'd had colon cancer surgery, was down to look like a concentration camp victim. They were giving him $2,000 a day fines for 3-inch grass. So I went out and showed the 3-inch grass. I then went and I showed the health department that had 3-foot grass. And it got picked up by the Austin American Statesman. It was a big news story. I went to the city council people's houses and showed they had taller grass. That was my first experience getting death threats and pulling out of my house and having cops pull me over, pulling out of my apartments. And again, most of the cops weren't involved. These are criminal units they have within. This is mafia. The local judges here, as you've now seen around the country, get paid bounties for how many kids they put in the juvenile justice centers. It's totally illegal on the face of it. I mean, you're late to class 3 times, they charge you with truancy, and then they make you waive your rights and sign on the probation. Next time and it's not even a violation, it's not even truancy, you go to jail, because they're getting federal money for all the prisoners they've got. They've got private juvie halls and others that then pay kickbacks and open political contributions. I mean, it's just mob, boss hog, everything. Now, I have confirmed, and it's been all over the news, I'm sure you've seen it yourselves, where, here's an example. I had $150,000, it was like a $145,000 mortgage on a house, and they kept selling my mortgage, and Bank of America bought it, I think the 4th time it got sold, and suddenly they were suing to take my house. And I went and said, look, the money was paid into escrow, the property tax is paid, and they started the suit to do it, and we had to counter-sue them to stop it. And I had to go out and get a real estate lawyer. And Bank of America was going to take the house, folks. And then did I file counterclaims? No, I don't have. The lawyers were telling me $50,000, $60,000 to go win a case, and the courts are so corrupt, I might have gotten lawyers' fees back for it. I'm about to go to Joyce Riley, who has a talk show, 7 to 10 in the morning here on Genesis as well, one of the longest-running shows here on Genesis. And so this is all going on everywhere, and a lot of good sheriffs have said, look, we can't repossess whole neighborhoods. We've put a hold on this. They're getting sued. But the issue is that's one thing. Another is everywhere where we're mainly seeing small farms, small ranches, homes that are paid off, generally old people after they've had a heart attack or something. That's the MO I've seen in Austin and around the country. Then the police come And a lot of times they're on the payroll. They themselves move into your house. I mean, it's now mainstream news. I've seen it at CNN and everywhere that in all these Texas towns, and they list them, they literally pull over old women and take their earrings, their wedding rings, and the cash out of their purse and tell them, get out of this town or I'm going to kill you. That's how America operates now. I mean, Boss Hogg is an angel. Illinois, it's in mainstream news that in Chicago and everywhere, they just pull you over. They like your car. They just take it. It was on NPR nationally. Dallas Morning News that the police pulled over thousands of nice cars, threw bags of chalk in, took people to jail and said, you're going to prison. That was cocaine unless you sign over your house and car to us. Now, that's some background. Here's Joyce Riley with what happened today. At the end of her show, this lady called in. They confirmed the lady's name, where she is in Missouri, and that the lady's in jail now. And then they had to go off air. The show was over. There were other shows programmed. There's no way with other shows like Gary Brownfield coming up that they could, keep going. That's why I have it set on overdrive so I can go internet only if I need to. And so Joyce continued to record. Folks were chomping at the bit to hear what happened. So she kept the lady online when her live show ended at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. And you're about to hear that. But to set the table, I know Joyce, because I listen some days when I'm driving into work, here on the local station, Joyce has really been on top of the fraud and how they're taking people's houses. But I want to explain something to you. They tried to take my little 3-bedroom house 4 years ago. It was about 2004, 5 years ago. Man, time's flying. Joyce Riley. It's getting worse and worse now, though. It's just amazing what's going on. Joyce, good to have you here with us.
I'll tell you, it is so important. It is unbelievably important that we have the opportunity and the ability through Genesis to be able to tell this message. And I really appreciate your coming on the air, allowing me to come on today because of this story. It needs to be told and it needs to be heard what just happened. This lady, I've been following her for several months, and she has been trying to save her home. Her job went off to China, the whole story. I don't need to tell everybody that, but her daughter lost her home, so she brought her daughter and her grandchildren into her home, was paying for food, and got behind on her mortgage payments. She is desperately wanting to save her home. That's all she's got. Well, they had been threatening her to take the home, and she found out that her original note had been paid as full when she wrote to them and asked them, do I owe anything? And they said it is paid in full. Your mortgage is paid in full.
Let me stop you. I was listening to XM, to a financial show, mainstream, syndicated show, and they had an expert on saying that these mortgage companies, I forgot, because I hadn't heard the story yet, Joyce, are running scams. So there's so many, I can't cover them all. That they sell them, and not just what Bank of America tried with me, that they then they tell you it's paid when there's only 1 or 2 payments left. They let that build up and then don't notify you and take your house. Go ahead. Is that what happened?
That is so criminal. So criminal. Well, in this situation, that mortgage was sold, and the new mortgage company was not a lien holder on it. There was no equity interest. So they had nothing, no really dog in this game. So there was no equity interest from that mortgage company, but they were going to take her home. So she called the attention to the judge that there was no equity interest on the lien. So as a result of that, she's been fighting it for months now. She went to court. She stood up to the judge and said, you don't have jurisdiction over this. And lo and behold, they sent her a message through her neighbors, telling her neighbors they didn't want to be at home today at 9 o'clock. They warned the neighbors to stay away, that they were going to take her into jail for trespassing on her own property, basically.
Let me stop you. We're going to tell the rest of the story, but I've got to add this. The New London, Connecticut case, a New London case, this is on record, folks. And we had all the experts on, and we had the witnesses on. It was even in the Wall Street Journal. And we had the family Gore Seafood from South Texas. Same thing happened to them. They don't just take your property for private interest now. These homes were paid for, generational homes there on the water, nice homes. They said, we're not going to pay you for your homes. We're condemning them. And if you fight us, we're then going to charge you interest and rent for the years you've been fighting us. And they took the homes and then charged them hundreds of thousands of dollars for taking their homes. Go ahead, Joyce.
So, I mean, they will find a reason to take your property. I was just talking to Derry Brownfield a few minutes ago. If you don't go along with NAIS, if you don't go along with whatever, they will find a way to take your home. Well, as a result, at 9 a.m. this morning, we had her on the phone. Well, we had her on the phone from about 8 o'clock on. And I'm talking about Dawn Welch from Hillsboro, Missouri, which is over by St. Louis. We had her on the line for a full hour. She started telling us, well, they're driving up now. There's an ambulance that drove up. There's a Humvee that drove up. There's 9 police cars out there. The sheriff's department is there. The police officer's there. And she walked us through this as this started to happen.
Okay, so she knew they were coming, so she called you, and then right as the show ends, they hit. Continue. Spell out her name as best you know it so we can get an article up on Infowarriors.com and PrisonPlanet.com about this, Joyce.
Okay, it's Dawn Welch, DAWNWELCH from Hillsboro, Missouri. She was filming it with the video. She had people on the outside filming this and documenting it. So there is film of what happened. The police went around to the back door right at about 10:30 this morning. Now, we went off the air, and John from Genesis and Ted were kind enough to allow us to continue recording there at Genesis. So we've got it all for people to hear.